Clinical, Buffalo, New York. Circuit Clinical is a clinical research network connecting patients, contract research organizations, and pharma. Welcome, Irfan Khan and Michelle Fisher. Circuit Clinical.
Let's do this. Let's do this. So we're Circuit. We're here to make it easier for people to find clinical trials in order to speed the development of new medicines. Every medicine you or your loved ones took came to market through a clinical trial. And the key to that is matching the right patient to the pharmaceutical company doing that trial. Yet finding a trial online is brutal for patients. And there are too few doctors doing clinical trials. That's the key friction in this space that pharma spends billions on. So $20 billion is spent on Facebook and Google ads looking for patients online. $13 billion is the cost of slowly enrolling these patients. That gets baked into the cost of high prices of medicines today. But worse, life-saving medicines may not make it to market because of these economics. So we solve for that in two synergistic ways. The first is that we built TrialScout. This is the first ever ratings and reviews platform to make it easier for patients to engage clinical trials. Think Yelp or HealthGrades. Secondly, we've built a scalable clinical research network that lets us do clinical trials right in your doctor's office. So pharma pays us to use TrialScout to support their trials and then pays us to conduct trials inside our network. It's a big problem. The good news is we're an experienced team with huge wins in digital health, precision medicine, and clinical trials, including the founders of HealthGrades and Pfizer's former head of innovation. I'm a cardiologist and a researcher. I left medicine in order to make clinical trials more accessible. We're making progress. We have traction across our value chain. TrialScout is trusted by research sites in 4 countries, including 200 research sites in the US alone. Our network is at 1.1 million patients and expanding rapidly, trusted by universities and NCI cancer centers right here. We are trusted by the top 20 pharma to conduct clinical trials across upstate. We were just picked by Johnson & Johnson for residency in their elite life science accelerator, J-Labs. So what happens if we win? We're the company that's been lucky enough to call Buffalo home since our founding. We've already created 24 jobs here. We will create dozens more while we scale. Winning would accelerate key hires, but more importantly, tell our industry we have arrived and we're ready to go. Buffalo has been, always will be home and headquarters as we build the clinical trials company of the future. We are Circuit. Thank you.
You look a lot of work.
I know.
What are you guys talking about over there?
A lot of people think we look alike.
You look alike?
Are you bringing Michelle out?
Oh, yes, please. Let me introduce our head of operations and the brains of the whole thing, Michelle Fisher.
So forgive the ignorant question. I understand the motivation for the physicians to participate in your platform. From the patient's point of view, why am I going to your platform? Is it because something is wrong with me and I don't have a medicine that's available and I want to be able to see what trials are out there to try an experimental medicine? Is that correct?
You nailed it. It's people don't look for their doctor online until they need a doctor. We learned that from our experience with HealthGrades. So what happens with clinical trials is we've entered an era where people want to know, okay, my doctor suggested these things. Are there other options out there? Clinical research is a care option, and so this is the platform that lets people evaluate that quickly.
So I'm sorry. So how are they going to know to go to your platform?
Yep, it's a great question. We actually have been doing a lot of work over the last year. TrialScout's been in production for a year. Our Alexa traffic rank is scaling nicely. We're already competitive with platforms that spend a lot on SEM. It's all organic. It's through backlinking through the sites that join the platform, the research sites and our partners who do that. We're about to launch the largest patient engagement initiative called Find the 5 to talk to the 5 million patients who've already been in clinical trials. We have broad support across the industry for that domain-specific search.
Chris?
Well, it's very mission-driven, so I think very important connecting people with clinical trials. But healthcare is so fucked up in this country and broken. And my question is, are you part of the problem? Because it's bloated administratively. or are you chipping away and providing a real solution?
That's a
Where
fair
do you
question.
fit?
Yeah, I would love to believe that I'm part of the solution, that we are part of the solution, because no one person does it alone. I will share that my previous life, I was an electrophysiologist putting in pacemakers and defibrillators. That's great work. It's hard to solve problems at scale. I think it will take physicians who have been in the space and know what those challenges are, and then bring other talents to bear to try to solve those problems. But it's, it isn't an easy fix. I think it's going to be a group of people who are really aimed at saying, we recognize that there's a huge problem, and we're going to have to solve it from within. Every time we outsource it to people outside of medicine, we get solutions like electronic medical records.
So similarly, pharma gets a bad rap, costs a lot of money for all these meds and stuff. Where do you guys help ease the public relations on that?
That is so that's absolutely philosophically how I feel about it too. We talk about big pharma like we talk about big tobacco, yet this is the most innovative thing Americans have ever done. It's better than putting somebody on the moon, because we do it every year like clockwork. We just changed the description of what it is to have cancer a few years ago. Nobel Prizes are awarded for the work that comes out of America and biopharma at whole. And yeah, it's treated like they're out there to gouge everybody. Part of that is changing where the patient sits in the paradigm. I think the closer we put the patient to the middle of the paradigm, the better it is for them to understand that they're the point of the whole thing, and that's the agent of change. Those pharmaceutical companies are working hard on that.
Good answer. Denmark.
So I think there might be some people who think that they're viewed as gouging because sometimes they gouge. But, I do appreciate the point. One of the things that I'm curious about, though, is if there's so much money lost because of slow enrollment in clinical trials, what are the values to speeding up the clinical trial, and does that include a process relative to FDA approval when appropriate?
These are the deep structure questions, and so I'll share that we just had probably the best run of an FDA commissioner in history with Scott Gottlieb's run, absolutely focused on transforming what it means to be safe but to be effective. And so I think there's an absolute window here where we can bring more patients, a larger denominator of patients, change their perception of the process, get them more excited about being the point of the whole thing. I think the whole industry is now ready to start looking at those solutions. It's something sometimes it's as simple as Ubering them to their appointments. All of that stuff is now on the table. We think we're part of that solution.
Yeah.
Great job, guys.